So normally a design takes anywhere from 1 to 10 hours, depending on how complex it is, to get that first initial design, something that we have to be able to show to the client as a first rough draft. Most of the time it's less than that 10 hours, but for really complicated things, it can take a while, depending on how many solutions we're including, how complex the actual building structure is, how many rooms and buildings we have to work with. So in this video, I've really kind of already done the design, because otherwise it would be a 3-hour video and we just don't have really time to show that. But Waba and Alex, they're editing wizards, so they're taking what I've done, bringing it into a concise, I don't know how long this video is going to be, 20-30 minutes or something like that. And now I get a chance to kind of walk you through that process of what we did and how we got from nothing and just a blank canvas and dimensions from our client to now we have a fully finished design that we can actually present to the client, and they can suggest changes, or we can just run with it and start doing some invoicing. So let's jump into it. Intro this project for you. This is for our client Todd in West Virginia, and he's got a 50 by 100 building, very similar to like the Atlanta project that we did. However, we're not going to be designing the entire space because he has a 50 by 30 section that's I think already done, that he has really turned into like an arcade. It's got a mezzanine and like some living area and stuff like that. I believe he's got a home theater in there. So really cool section of the building that is pretty much already figured out, that we're not really providing any kind of garage solutions for. So we're focused in the right side of the building with the 4 bays that is going to be for storing boats and RVs, cars. There's going to be a wash bay and stuff like that. And that section of the building is 50 by 70. So it's still, it's still huge. It's still massive. We've got, a ton of depth for cars and stuff like that. You can even fit his full RV in there. And then obviously a ton of width for, everything that he needs to store and all the activities and workshop type stuff that he wants to do. So we're going to have a wash bay area. He wants to be able to wash inside. We're going to have storage for the RV, boats, jet skis, I think, and then maybe 3, 4, 5 cars, something like that off to the side. He also really wants to have a dedicated workspace for some tools, but mainly focused on RC cars and doing builds with his son and everything involved with maintenance with that. There'll be some tools in that, for cars and stuff like that, but that's really going to be a dedicated area mostly for RC cars, which is going to be pretty cool. We'll have in the wash bay area, a giant boom pole and stuff like that. So it's going to be pretty cool. So really now we need to talk about the actual setup of the building in our software. And we use Chief Architect Premier. We looked at doing Revit and ArchiCAD and a couple other things that I know a lot of architects use, but for our purposes, we're really focused on products themselves. We're designing around the MSS cabinets, the Cree lighting, and Swiss Trax flooring, and the stainless shelving and compressors and stuff like that. So we need the real easy ability to just drag and drop the products that we have and the 3D files that we have right into the space and be able to show that in real time, to a customer if I'm on a Zoom call or something like that. So the first thing that I'm going to do here in this setup, we've already gotten all of the dimensions and everything that we need from Todd, and he's even sent us a few photos that really kind of give us context for some of the beams and the walls and where the power, the electrical panels are and stuff like that. So now I'm just going to jump in and start building this from scratch. We've got our blank template that I use and that we've kind of built out, and I just start by kind of getting rid of the interior products that are in there. We just have like a cabinet array and stuff, and then start sizing it to the building. From there, I really kind of go through and build out the rest of the structure relating to the doors and the windows and garage doors specifically, and then man doors, after that, any power or electrical panels, anything that we need to pay attention to. And then I go and set, the ceiling heights and whether it's a pitched ceiling or pitched roof, if it's going to be an open ceiling, stuff like that. Once the building is set and we're comfortable with it, we've got our paint colors and stuff like that, then we transition to actually starting to incorporate our products into the design. Just like in a normal garage that we're actually physically building out, the biggest thing that you can do to make a huge difference in your garage is paint, flooring, and lighting. You can keep all the clutter, you can keep everything that's on their walls, all the stuff in the garage, all your old cabinets, whatever, and just change the flooring and the lighting and paint, and you've transformed your garage into the best thing you've ever seen. Now, obviously, we can go way further than that and start adding cabinets and organization and compressed air and pressure washers and stuff like that, but just those three things make a huge difference. And it's the same thing for when I'm designing in our software. In order for me to see what I'm doing in there, I really want to put lighting in there, because in the 3D space, those lights are actually doing stuff, and it's really kind of just dark and drab in there if I don't put lights in there. So that's always what I start with, is lighting, flooring, and then we get into some of the other stuff. So as far as lighting goes, Todd's garage is a little different because it's such a large space and it's multi-use. He's got storage over on the right side for boats and his RV and stuff like that. And then on the left half is like the real kind of work area with the wash bay and the cabinets and all of that. So we don't really need to have as much lighting over in the storage area. Normally we like to keep it very even, but when it's such a large space like this, it's just not really cost effective to put that much lighting over where it's just really not needed. So we've kind of staggered the lighting. You can see I've got a few different rows that I'm building out here, and it'll provide an opportunity to where we can have the left half on a dimmer, on one Pico switch, and then the right half can be on another Pico switch, so we could only turn on one or the other. We could also probably maybe do one or two other Picos or scenes to where maybe you only put on the long linear strips that cover the entire space. That way it's even throughout and it's not as bright or something like that. So we haven't gotten into that with Todd yet, and we can kind of sort that out. But lighting is always the first thing. Next, I like to do Swiss tracks, so that way it starts to kind of help me figure out what the space is going to feel like and what it's going to be from a sizing type of scenario. We start by adding basically just an invisible wall. We do a room divider, it's called, and put that into the space, and then I just dimension it out based on the inches that a Swiss Trax tile is, 15.75, and I go around and make sure that everything is correct and that we're measuring everything by a tile width. So that way, when we actually go to quote this out, we know exactly how many tiles to do and all of that, and Ed can kind of get the dimensions out of here and know exactly what to put into the Swiss Trax designer tool that we have online, which you should go look at because it's awesome. And you can just design your own floor if you want to, and it spits you right out into the checkout. It's really cool. We get that all set, and then I drop in the colors for the Swiss Trax tiles, and now you can see that things are starting to look a little more like a garage. It's starting to look a little more realistic, which is pretty cool. Next up, we're going to go ahead and do the wash bay. And the wash bay for Todd is going to be pretty large, but he's got really high ceilings. So you could do a boom pole and have like this giant extension come down, or mount the boom pole way up if your lighting is high enough and you're not going to hit anything. But then you have this giant hose that's hanging down. I don't really like that. I like to bring it down closer in that kind of 12 to 14 foot range, something like that. And so what we've done with this is we're actually putting a wall mount extension on the wall and then attaching the boom pole to that. Benefit of that is that we now have nothing obstructing in the ceiling that's coming down and always there. With that wall boom extension, you can actually fold it up against the wall, which is really cool. And nice to have in a big space like this where maybe you want to be able to have that vast, unobstructed visual view. Now you have something that folds up against the wall nice and clean. The other benefit, especially because he's got boats and RV and stuff like that, he could theoretically use that boom pole to be able to wash most of those items. The RV might be a little difficult still just because it's so big, but the boats especially, like he could still use this boom pole to do those because of that extension. So it mounts on the wall and swivels like this. And then the boom pole itself actually attaches onto the end, onto the plate that it matches up with. So then you have a mount point, rather than being in a fixed location that you're spinning at 360 degrees. Now you end up with this swiveling location that rotates on, 180 degree axis, to where you have a mount point now at all of these different points where that boom can swivel from, which gives you a much larger area. So great for if you're working on trucks or boats and stuff like that. You could get real crazy with it, and you can do some really, really long lengths. I think they make it up to like 19 point something feet for the wall boom extension, and then another 19 point something feet for the boom pole if you wanted to go that crazy. And you could cover the entire area of a semi truck if you wanted to. 40 feet that direction, 40 feet that direction. We don't set those up because we're never pretty much in that scenario where it makes sense. We are still, of course, doing the Krensla custom install solution on the wall. Now we'll have to do some valves and stuff like that, which you've seen in, I believe, the Krensla giveaway that we did. What was that, a year or so ago? That was a really good example of how you can have a hose reel and a boom pole, and then we set it up with a valve system. And then we did the same thing in the Helen garage for a Destination OG. So you can still have a hose reel and a boom pole if you want to have both of those options available to you. Especially with a big space like this, that may make a lot of sense. So that way you can take your 100-foot hose and wash something outside or on the other side of the building if you wanted to. One thing regarding the wash bay, and I didn't touch on it with the Swiss Trax, we're really only doing Swiss Trax in the wash bay and work area because the rest of the space he just wants to have for just general storage, and he's not super worried about using it all that often and worried about Swiss Trax and stuff over there, which I get, because covering a giant space like that, it does get pretty costly. So last on the list for Todd and the build out of this space for him is the cabinet array. And he already knew exactly where he wanted to put the cabinet array, basically between the two beams on the back wall to the right of the man door, which I think works out really well. I like having it on the back wall because then you open the doors and you see it back there and it looks good, and it's just a nice spot for it. Like I mentioned earlier, he's not really super tool focused in this garage. And the main thing that he's looking for is a really nice workbench area that he and his son, I think his son is a little bit older, and they work on RC cars and stuff like that together. So he really wanted a dedicated space for that. And so having two sitting areas was really important. And we chose MSS Plus because that's really the best option for that, I think, because you can have those bridge units that really finish it off. If you just do like a cabinet and then a top that spans over, it's just kind of funny looking. So ideally, you really want to do that bridge unit if you can, especially for a desk that maybe you're not sitting at 8 hours a day. Now, granted, we have that over in our design corner. We've got MSS Plus and we've got the bridge units, and we do sit at those 8 hours a day. It's fine. I think a regular desk is probably better, but for when you're getting a project done and stuff like that, it's a really good solution. So we did a mix of 3 drawers, 6 drawers, and then we also did a waste bin unit on the left side. And I really like doing a waste bin unit because it's just so functional. It may seem like a waste of space, no pun intended, but that may seem excessive to do that in some scenarios. I really like to include that in pretty much every design that we do. Don't think of it as like a wasted space including that, you know, like, oh, I could have put a drawer cabinet there or something. If you really don't need all of that extra storage because MSS Plus is so, you know, has such a high capacity, it's a great way to add more counter space. And then you can still have a upper cabinet above it, you know, one of the MSS Plus wall cabinets. So you're still getting a lot of extra functionality cabinet-wise out of that with the added functionality of waste bin, being able to put towels and stuff like that in there. Okay, and that's pretty much it for the cabinets. I think we've got those set. And we did under cabinet lighting, and so those are all good. You'll notice we didn't do any lockers or anything in that space because he's really just focused on the workbench area. So we're good there, and really the next and last step is really just jumping into 3D, tidying up the space, maybe placing some cars and stuff like that. We've got, you know, a bunch of, 3D models of Porsches in here. We've got the boats, we've got the RV, and really that's the last step of just making sure that we've got everything that we need. Put a few, a couple Viper fans in here just for good measure, and I think it kind of fits the space. So, once we go through and check to make sure the spacing is correct and, we have everything where we want it to be and we're showing all the details that we need, we're done and that's it. And now we're able to go through and set our cameras and then really just build out the design proposal that we need for the client, and we present that to them, and then we start going through that, review and edit process with them to really dial it in exactly to where they want. Whether it's moving items or switching out things to a different manufacturer, or just a different drawer version or a different pressure washer or something like that. We go through that process for as many times as it takes to get it absolutely perfect for what their dream garage is, and so that they can fully realize that and have that awesome space. All right, guys, so that's pretty much the whole process from start to finished product. And we've got the structure of the building built out. We've got the lighting, we've got the flooring, we've got the wash bay for Todd and the vacuum system and stuff like that. Cabinets on the back wall. We threw in some cars and everything to just bring more context and visual appeal to the space. And now we have a finished product that we can present to him, and it's hopefully going to be great. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this, and you were able to take some bits and pieces out that maybe you caught on for this garage that'll work in your space. If you have a space that you want us to help design, whether it's the interior or just start to finish, we can do that. So reach out to us, design@obsessedgarage.com, or go to the design page on the website. Just click garage design right up there at the top, and we can work with you on your garage. Stay tuned for more videos on the design process, because we're going to be going pretty deep into this, showing different walkthroughs and different products and how they relate specifically to garage design. So hopefully you guys can gain a lot of stuff from that will help you in your own space. All right, guys, we'll see you next time.